A portion of today's video is sponsored by Nixie. 2023 has been a very good year for gaming hardware, despite the fact that we didn't see anything like a whole new console generation or anything start up, particularly waiting on whatever Nintendo's doing next. We've seen a ton of new controllers, a boom in the PC handheld market, and PlayStation in particular just dropping a lot of official first-party accessories and new stuff this year. Doing what I do, I've had the opportunity to use a lot of the stuff that has come out this year. Not every single piece just yet, but a lot of it. And I want to talk about my favorite gaming tech I've used this year. And I'd like to start with the DualSense Edge. Like I said, this has been a big year for hardware from PlayStation. We've gotten a bunch of different accessories. We've got the PSVR 2, we got the PlayStation Portal that I actually ended up liking more than I thought I would, as well as a refreshed PS5 Slim that I personally like the look of more. But when I think of all the stuff that I've tried they have released, my personal favorite is definitely the DualSense Edge. This was PlayStation's first-party Pro controller option, offering a lot of different upgrades that the regular DualSenses don't offer, while still keeping the core design that people find really familiar. And I think they did a fantastic job with it. To be perfectly honest, there are some Pro controller features that I think some other third-party manufacturers have been able to tackle and handle a little better, but the DualSense Edge has a massive advantage in terms of executing on the stuff that it wanted to accomplish, while ultimately still keeping all the things that make it a first-party option. You get to take advantage of things like advanced remapping features, profile switching, remappable back buttons, and adjustable sensitivities, while maintaining all the things that make a DualSense controller a DualSense controller. You're gonna have the haptic feedback, the built-in microphone, the adaptive triggers, all stuff that you tend to lose out on when you go to third-party options that you keep on the DualSense Edge itself. And more than all of these, I think one of the biggest things about it that really stands out to me is the first level support on connectivity with the system. The ability to very quickly double check what profile you currently have activated, being able to dive into the settings while you're in the middle of a game in order to update it any way that you need to. And the options menu for it does an excellent job of being a very user-friendly Pro controller experience where you can get some useful information and walkthroughs on how you can customize it and why that might benefit your particular playstyle. You know, when it comes to some very specific games, particularly when I care more about the competitive aspect of things like fighting games, there are other controllers to reach for, which we are going to talk about a little bit more in a bit. But when it comes to playing the vast majority of games on the PS5, the DualSense Edge has become my default go-to. And in fact, at least according to my PlayStation Year review, it was my #1 most used controller in 2023 on PlayStation. Next up is Nintendo's turn, and I'm actually going to cheat a little bit on this one because the product I'm talking about actually came out in late 22, but I didn't really get my hands on it or was fully aware of it until 23, and there's some similar products that came out that I do like, but this one has really become my personal favorite of them, and that is the Retro Flag Nintendo handheld controller. Joy-Cons are great and all and have some useful features, but they're not the most comfortable thing in the world to use for long periods of time. And so while one way you can address this is by getting a grip, of which I still enjoy and use a lot, Satisfy did have a new option this year that I enjoyed as well, but the Retro Flag controller offers something that's a little more feature complete, adding some other things on top of that. This is a larger style controller that offers a much more comfortable grip when compared to using just the regular old Joy-Cons on the system. It takes advantage of Hall effect sticks, which of course are one of the biggest talking points this year when it comes to Nintendo Switch accessories, because everyone's really trying to get away from drift as much as possible, and Hall effect is certainly the most popular solution to that right now, while still supporting a lot of important first-party features like motion controls and at least some form of vibration, even if it's not the fancier version that Joy-Cons and Pro controllers can offer. This is honestly a pretty straightforward product, and while there's some extra spec sheet type stuff I could rattle off about it, it really does just nail a midpoint that I think is really nice for a lot of people, in that it is a straightforward way of getting your Switch in a handheld configuration that you're playing on the go, because I definitely play my system in handheld more than any other way, while getting a more comfortable experience with more pronounced buttons and sticks, and a little extra peace of mind thanks to using Hall effect sensors. Now, as I said, this is not the only way of accomplishing this kind of increased comfort on the go. It is just one of my favorite ones that's happened in the last year. Satisfy did also release an updated grip design for Switch OLED and regular Switches that is a nice option if you just want something that is purely a grip while maintaining the regular Joy-Cons. And then of course there are also more pronounced larger Joy-Con options from third-party companies, including one from the sponsor of today's video, Nixie. If you're a fan of retro-style controllers on the Nintendo Switch, one of the ones that I've taken a look at in the past is the Nixie Wizard, whose inspirations I think are fairly obvious. This is a Joy-Con style controller, so you can use it in handheld mode with the system, or like a regular controller this way, and it has a number of useful special features like offering Hall effect sticks, so you don't have to worry about drift, remappable back buttons, tactile triggers, and even the ability to swap around the gates if you want to have the octagonal style or a more traditional circular style. Now, initially when these released, they were only available in Indigo and Black. They later on released a Platinum one, and now, as you can see here in my hands, they're offering a Spice Orange option as well, and have released a couple other support accessories you can grab, like swappable sticks if you want to have different styles in here, like a more traditional C-stick approach, as well as a newer version of this bridge that you can attach that allows for simultaneously charging both controllers. It being the holiday season, they've got a couple different special things going on. You can actually get this special Christmas wrapping for the box if you'd like. They're also doing a sale on the Nixie Wizard, so until the 25th, they're able to get 15% off. And if you go to their Twitter page, they have a giveaway going on right now, or if you enter, you have the chance to be one of 5 winners to get a free controller. If you want to grab one of these while they're on sale, or take your chances on that giveaway, all of it is linked down below in the description. So since I started with a PlayStation item, I feel like I gotta jump right over to Xbox to talk about something for them that I really liked this year. And it's kind of on the opposite end because it's not so much an expensive Pro controller option as it is more affordable controller with just a really cool idea behind it. And that is the Hyperkin Xenon controller. This is a controller that was made officially in collaboration with Xbox, similar to what they had done years prior with their re-release of the Duke controller on the Xbox One. And this is a 360 style controller that you can use on modern Xbox systems or on PC as well if you prefer. And while there are some minor visual changes to the controller, this absolutely captures the feeling of using one of those older 360 controllers, but brand new manufactured, which feels a little bit better versus several years of use that most original ones have now gone through. In fact, when it came out, I grabbed one of my best condition 360 controllers and used them side by side, and while there are some minor differences in some of the feelings like buttons and sticks, primarily also due to age, not just a change in manufacturing, but the grip style and shape and everything in this controller feels so much like that original, while offering all the new stuff that you'd like to see in a modern controller, including things like share button so it can operate like a modern controller. The only part of it, honestly, that felt like a little bit of a miss to me is they didn't recreate the 4 circular lights around the Xbox logo, instead favoring just a singular light, which I kind of get why, because it's not something that really works today, but it's just the one really obvious dead giveaway that it is not the original 360 controller. Coinciding with that original 360 controller theming, Hyperkin did release these in a couple different colors as well. You can of course get it in the traditional white. They also had it in a pink and red. Personally, the black one is my favorite because they opted for still using black buttons on things like the menu buttons. So that blends in a lot more with the black controller design that really captures that old school look. I think for a lot of people, the 360 was kind of the biggest golden years for Xbox. Not that there isn't cool stuff going on now today, but 360 was certainly a high point for the brand. And so if 360 was a system that you grew up with and that was a controller you used all the time, I mean, I know people to this day who still use the original 360 controllers as a wired controller on PC. This is a new option for keeping that style alive. There's another Pro controller option that came out this year that I enjoyed immensely for a very different reason from the DualSense Edge, although it is also a PS5 controller option, and that is the Razer Kitsune. As opposed to being a more traditional handheld controller, this is part of a movement we've been seeing lately of all-button fight not sticks. I always want to say fight stick, but that's not accurate anymore. We'll say arcade controller. It's an arcade style controller that ditches the stick entirely in favor of a 4-button setup for doing the directionals. And this is a style that's begun to get more and more popular, but what the Razer Kitsune does specifically that I think really resonated with me is not just simply how good the controller feels and the quality of the buttons, but also in terms of just how tiny the thing is. With how thin the body is and not having to deal with a stick popping out of it, this is so easy and simple to slot into a bag and have for more portability, while again offering this different controller style that is excellent for fighting games. There's absolutely an adjustment phase when you're using this kind of controller for the first time because, even if you haven't used arcade sticks a lot, there's a certain kind of natural feeling to using a stick for movement inputs that doesn't necessarily come across with 4-button setups. But I will say at the same time, it's not nearly as intimidating as you might think at first. I really wasn't sure how long it would take me to get comfortable with it. And while I'm still not exactly a pro because I have not put nearly as much practice time as I should be into some fighters, the directionals in the Kitsune now feel so much more natural. And as for the the customization side of things, like I said, I really like the feeling of the buttons on these, but if you don't, it's actually very easy to access the button switches themselves. They use a standardized design, so you can go buy whatever ones you'd like to use instead and swap them over to fit your personal preference. Now, being a Razer product means there is, of course, the one balancing side of things that it is not cheap in the first place. I mean, a lot of the higher quality arcade controllers like this get around the same price point, so it is competitive with other options out there. But if this is something you want to take advantage and learn, just be ready for the fact that it's gonna cost to pick up. That said, this is one of those cases where I think you get what you pay for, and I mean that in an absolutely positive way. It is an excellent arcade-style controller once you get used to this new button style. Speaking of expensive, let's talk about PC handhelds. This year was very large for them. We saw multiple come out. We got the ROG Ally at the start of the year. More recently, we got the Lenovo Legion Go. But my personal favorite one that released, despite just being a new version of one that we've already seen before, is the Steam Deck OLED. I've done a more in-depth video talking about, comparing this to other options like the ROG Ally. Make sure to check that out if you want to see some of those more in-depth parts. But the simplest reason why I love the Steam Deck OLED as much as I do versus other options out there is I think it nails the handheld aspect the most out of other ones I've used. There's really appealing benefits that other ones offer, like increased power to run, more demanding games at better frame rates and having better visuals, but the Steam Deck OLED really nails, I think, having the right amount of power level to where, yeah, you can run some modern day demanding stuff if you don't mind taking a cut in some of the visuals, while you're able to get fantastic performance out of less demanding games, indie titles, older games that you just want to be able to take on the go handheld, while supporting a number of handheld features that just feel better. The grip shape is more comfortable, the OLED display looks fantastic, and more than anything, battery life. The original Steam Deck's battery life wasn't outright awful unless you were really playing some heavily demanding stuff, but the OLED's improved energy efficiency and larger battery has really made it the default go-to PC handheld for me. There are definitely those bigger, more demanding titles that I'll end up wanting to play on PC more because I want to be able to push the frame rate, stuff like Cyberpunk, stuff like Baldur's Gate 3, but when I'm playing a lot of indie games or I'm going back to some of my older stuff, there's just a simplicity and comfort the Steam Deck OLED offers that I just don't feel out of the other options just yet. If you have not invested in a PC handheld just yet, and it's something you've been thinking about, and Steam Deck's one you're looking at, it's absolutely worth spending the extra money to pick up the OLED because it is, in my mind, just the right way to go right now. So that's my favorite gaming tech of 2023. If you're interested in any of this stuff, I do have links posted down below in the description for all of it. And along with all of that is, of course, a link to today's sponsor, Nixie. Don't forget to also enter their giveaway if you want to end up winning some stuff. I want to thank them again for sponsoring a portion of today's video. As always, if you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you guys later.